Listening. Hey, family, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel, A Woman's Heart Podcast, your go-to destination for exploring faith, inspiration, health, and personal growth. Today, we have a truly inspiring guest. He is a community impact leader, a dedicated change maker from the front lines of international conflict of leadership roles within the U.S. Army to a passionate advocate for education and social justice. He is helping countless young people achieve their dreams. So get ready to be inspired by his incredible journey and stay tuned so that you can be enlightened and get your blessing. Hi, and welcome back to Woman's Heart Podcast, a wellness podcast where we explore faith, inspiration, health, and personal growth. I'm so excited you're joining me for another empowering message because today we have an awesome guest joining us, Mr. Searn Lanier. Searn is a decorated military officer, educator, and community leader. Searn's career spans decades of service from the front lines of international conflicts to leadership roles within the U.S. Army. He's also a passionate advocate for education and social justice. Get ready to be inspired by his incredible journey that he's going to share with us. And think of me as your Chief Encouragement Officer, preparing you for an insightful conversation with a change maker and a community impact leader. Welcome to the show, Searn.
And thank you. Good morning. And thank you for having us out this morning.
Absolutely. We're super excited about you sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us and everything you're doing for the youth and the next gen in our community. So let's jump right on in. I would love for you to tell us from your heart who you are and what makes you get up in the morning.
Searn Lanier is just a kid from Petersburg, Virginia that grows up and probably more famously known as Miss Peach's grandson. Right. I'm probably one from that community. Remember that you don't have your own name. They don't care how much great things you do in the world, what rank you make, or how much money you make. If you're not doing right on the traditions of your grandparents and those before you, then you get dealt with differently. So I'm that kid.
Oh, okay. I love that. That's so good. So from that perspective too, like a little bit about your journey. So give us your extensive military, knowing that you have this extensive military background and experience. What are some of those key leadership qualities that you've developed and how have they applied to your civilian career? Because I'm just curious, because you've had to make a pivot as you transition from military life into civilian life.
Yeah, it's been a pivot, but not as much as what people think. And it kind of goes back to my childhood. I mean, I knew what I wanted to do very early on in life, and I was very fortunate in that sense. And if you can imagine, going to an air show and they had an aircraft roped off, do not touch, keeping people back, and you got that little worrisome kid that goes underneath the ropes and putting his sticky paw prints on everything. That was me. Uh,
Yeah.
my father was a medevac pilot, so I grew up in a military family.
Mhm.
My grandfather served in World War II. I had uncles that served. We had people in all branches of service. So even at our family reunions, there would be a portion of the day that if you weren't a veteran or hadn't served, you weren't, you were asked to leave.
Wow.
It was that deep, and there was a lot of my uncles and father was from Vietnam era, so it was definitely pretty intense, for those things. So for me, growing up and knowing that you wanted to be a pilot, there was no pathways for pilot outside of the military. If you wanted to be a pilot in the military, you had to be an officer, which required a college degree. So a lot of the backward planning in order to get those steps, that was up front. There was really no discussion about going to college for me as a kid, because if you wanted to be a pilot, you knew what you needed to do.
Mhm.
So those steps are outlined out there very early as part of the process. So for me, growing up, every achievement, whether it's high school or college, it really wasn't a celebration. You wake up in the morning and it's like, okay, what's next? You've already achieved this gate. All right, what's the next gate to get you to the next point?
Mhm.
So sometimes you may reflect back and say, well, you didn't celebrate those achievements. And probably not, because I knew there was a longer goal. I knew that, it was going to take 45 years to graduate from college. I knew it was going to take a couple of years to go through flight training
Right.
before you get there. So I already knew that before I got fully into, what I wanted to do, that was going to be 20, 20, 25, 27 years old. And when you know that, as a kid, from 5 years old, seven, middle school, high school is just when you get to those steps, like, okay, high school degree is not a big deal because you need to get that college degree. College degree is not
Right.
a big deal
Right.
because you got to get selected. So that's kind of how that been. Once I got in the military and trained up, I was able to achieve my goal and become a pilot. And then things don't always work out the way that you want in life. And then you go into some other career aspects and try to explain to kids now that what you do, what you want to do, it may not be what you want to be when you get there and you got
Right.
to pivot.
Mhm.
But a lot of your skill sets build one after another. So for me, my background along, there were some bumpy journeys along to get the degree. So I did end up going enlisted and was in the Guard and Reserve and working multiple jobs. So you learn how to do logistics and how to be with a single mom and juggling two jobs, and
Mhm.
going to three different schools. You figure it
Right.
out, right? Um, you figure out the financial situation. My mom only paid for the first semester books my freshman year.
Right.
That was it. Everything else I figured had to figure it out on how to get there, not to be a burden on her. So I
Mhm.
think those skill sets that you like learning how to hustle, that
Mhm.
was ingrained early on. They
Right.
never went away. But you just, hey, there's a task, and there's a condition, there's a standard which you had to meet, and you identify a problem, you solve that one, and you identify the next problem, you solve that one, you just go on to the next thing. So for me to go from enlisted to officer as an aviator, then get into logistics, all of those skill sets and opportunities, and we add in, I mean, I spent half my military career overseas, which is a learning experience. I picked
Mhm.
up about five languages in course of my career.
That was my next
Yeah.
question. Like, how many languages do you speak?
You,
Wow.
you you figure it
Five.
out. I mean,
You
you
like,
figure it out.
I'm overseas.
Yeah, you overseas, you got to figure it out. You can't be like you can't be like in Germany and say, "Hey, why aren't you speaking English?" Right?
Right, right, right.
Not
That's true.
That's not the way to go. That's the route of the ignorant American, and you want to be an ambassador from there. But I did pick up Korean. I was there for a little bit.
Oh,
Picked in Bosnia twice and picked up Serbo-Croatian the second time around there a
mhm.
little bit because it was part of the job.
Yeah.
Picked up German, Italian, so you get there, and it's not always that complicated. You already run out of gas, you're gonna figure it out. If you're hungry, you're gonna figure out what's on the menu. If you go to a
Right.
pub and want to go out and talk to folks, you're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's not, I'm not saying that you had to be the highest level of proficiency in a language, but you have to be enough to be knowledgeable, show that you're willing to care, learn about others, and be part of the team. So
Yeah.
all those skill sets help me to pivot because it's basic problem solving. And majority, particularly being an officer, it's solving problems. It's looking at identifying a problem, coming up with solutions, but more importantly, utilizing the team around you and getting them to help you formulate that problem solving technique.
Yeah.
Get a breath out in them because you're not going to be the smartest person in the room. You're probably going to have people smarter than you working with you or for you.
Hmm.
But if you don't bring out that talent, if you don't bring out the best in that person, that individual, in that team, you're not going to come up with the best solutions.
I love that. I think I'm hearing a lot of leadership is what I'm hearing. And then also going back to the origin of, you said your mom was a single mom and she raised you. Is that what I
Mhm.
heard you say?
Yep.
Um, I think part of, and my mom was a single mom, she raised five kids. And so what I look at in terms of modeled behavior is like discipline, getting up, doing what you need to do, not what you want to do, but what you
Mhm.
need to do to get the thing done. And I think that translates over into our lives. Like you see it even as an adult. You just continue watch your mom is the behavior model that you just kind of take on those attributes.
Yeah, it doesn't give a lot of time for self sympathy, right?
Right. You just say,
You
okay,
know,
this is what you're supposed to do. You got to get in
right.
there and make it happen. You have a choice,
So
you
it's
know.
always an interesting question we ask, like, what gets you up in the morning, and say
Mhm.
that's what you're supposed to do. If God give you the strength to wake up in the morning, blessing of waking up in the morning, you got to take action. And I'm not a morning person, so a lot of times I wake up in the morning, I'm on zombie mode. It's like I'm just on
Right.
automatic, just you got to get up, brush your teeth, use the bathroom. There's certain things that's just automatic. You don't think about it. It's just become rote memorization. That's what
Yeah.
you do. But yeah, I do wake up in the morning. But I also through our mission that we have here, RSI, Result Solutions Incorporated, you're part of something that's larger than yourself. And I think that's the biggest motivation, that you're not getting up to get a check. You're not getting up to make your stats or look big or beat your chest, or to try
Right.
to get acknowledgement or recognition.
Hmm.
You're working to try to help empower and someone else's life, or give them the opportunity to extend their family legacy or change the trajectory of their family and their economic pathways. So
Right.
that's what kind of gets you up in the morning, because that's just kind of built in.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. So, from an education and community impact perspective, you as a dedicated educator, what inspired you to start Resolve Solutions Incorporated, and how has this organization made a difference in the lives of the young people that you're working with? Because I know you got lots of examples. We talked, and I know, and I'm just really impressed with how
Yeah.
you could just rattle it off, like you know the people that you help, which I love.
I think that goes back to, again, Miss Alice E. Lanier, aka Miss Peaches.
Mhm,
Her voice resonates in my voice to this day. She's moved on, a couple of decades ago now, but
mhm.
her notion was always think about the children, right? It
Right.
wasn't about you as an adult. It's like, hey, what are you doing to empower the next round of kids, and
Mhm,
maybe that come from their background and wanted to help kids and trying to do a National Children's Day, or petition Congress and some of the great things that she did to try to
mhm.
champion those causes. But yeah, so that was I think that was built in early on, and again, it got to a point in my career that you got to be a pilot, but maybe it was some societal changes. People didn't have a reverence for pilots, and if you see, growing up as a kid. But it
Mhm.
was also, I also didn't want to be stuck in a box where you're like one dimension.
Right,
So
right.
interesting enough, I had worked in admissions at my alma mater, the Virginia Military Institute, before I graduated from college.
Mhm.
Excuse me, after I graduated from college, before I went to flight school.
Okay.
So I got to learn the process, of going out talking to kids. And I had always talked about VMI even since my freshman year. One of the first guys that I quote recruited, he ended up being like a three-time All-American wrestler. He's working up on Wall Street now, doing very successful.
Oh, wow.
So I think that recruiting or just talking to people is just something that always came natural because you're just talking about your experience. It's
Right. That's
you
it.
know it's
Yeah.
not anything to gain from that. You're just sharing your experience, that, hey, it's hard. In this case, it's not easy, it's not hard, but there's some outcomes in the end, and you got to roll the dice and take a leap of faith and take that journey.
Right.
So when I became a recruiter, it was the same thing. They teach you a process, but then you have to tailor that to your own skill sets. They can teach you what to do and start as far as going to a fair, setting up a display, but you still got to develop your own interaction or your sales technique of how you're going to pitch it. And using that model, those skill sets didn't go away. So when I fast forward after I graduated and coming back to almost 18 years later, it was
Mhm.
kind of like riding a bicycle. And I
Okay.
think the biggest thing is something that you said when you're talking to students and families, you got to first, understand your audience. First thing
Yes.
I ask is, hey, what's your name? Um, what do you want to do when you grow up? It sounds very trivial, but then it's like that backward plan. If you know where the kid wants to be at, then you can tell them how to get there. The parents are easy because every parent wants their kid to go to the best school possible and pay as little as possible, come out of school little to no debt.
Right.
So it's then just identifying what do you want to do after you graduate and then backwards planning from there. So it's no sense talking about how great a school is about engineering if the kid wants to be a lawyer, right?
Exactly. And you got to
So,
align it to that, to what they want, not so much what
yeah.
the
So
parent wants.
exactly. So every pitch, so to speak, is
Mhm.
is tailored to the individual student. What are their needs? How we're going to help you get to where you want to be, and whether that's to VMI, the Service Academy, or going to the Army, I can make a case for how the skills as a leader that you're going to attain are going to make you better. Whether that's you want to be a doctor, lawyer, you want to be an entrepreneur, business leader, all those skill sets in terms of planning, motivating people, building teams. That's going to resonate. There's something that the military or service that's going to help you become a better person.
That's good. Thank you for your answer. And I appreciate it. And thank you for your service and what you're doing now, even out of the military and bringing it into the Resolve Solutions Incorporated. So, in terms of challenges and triumphs, let's talk about that. Can you share like a particular challenging moment in your career and how you overcame it? And what are some of your proudest accomplishments? So give us the worst thing, worst case scenario, and then the best accomplishment. Because I know that it's not a straight line, right?
Oh, no,
I
no,
mean, it
no.
sounds like it when you're saying like I knew I wanted to be a pilot when I was 5 and then went to 7 in high school. And I'm like, okay, that's great, check boxes, but there had to be some challenges along the way.
Well, yeah, there were a bunch of challenges around the way. Like, you get that first report card in college,
Right.
that you're not as strong as you think you were prepared academically as you think that you
Mhm.
were, but you had to figure it out. Or even from my case, falling one letter grade short, going to summer school and falling one letter grade short. and then getting suspended academically, how do you recover from that?
Right.
Each one of those setbacks, there's a comeback, and
Yeah.
you have to kind of figure out. And sometimes you don't know the answer, you don't know the way, but you have to have belief in yourself that you're going to get there. And that's one thing I can definitely understand kids like, hey, I'm going to take this path. But I think this one thing that's different is like it's one thing when you have a setback that is unintentional. It's
Hmm.
another thing when you're not prepared and you intentionally go opposite of the pathway, like when you don't study, you don't know what the pathway is, and you're
Right.
gonna forge out into it. Like I hear kids all the time say, "Hey, I want to be you know, what a social entrepreneur. They want to do everything with the TikTok videos and everything." And like, do you
Yeah, because
understand the
that's
amount of
real relevant right now. A lot of kids coming up want to do that. Yes.
but do you understand the creativity that's behind it? It's not just looking at other
Right.
content and
Hmm.
making your own. You got to come up with your own original content,
Yeah.
and you got to understand the algorithms. You got to have multiple accounts to ping it, understanding the algorithms to get the
Hmm.
amount of hits. And if you go back and look at content creators, it's not the stuff that's popular. You got to go back 60, 70, 80 of their stories when it had
Right.
like the 10 viewers,
Mhm.
the 100 views, and see how it's built over time,
Right.
understanding that they deleted a lot of those posts that weren't
Hmm.
doing well,
Hmm.
from there. So you gotta study that stuff. So there have been setbacks along the way, I went through flight school. It was interesting, didn't have any setbacks there, because we didn't have any weather and maintenance delays. But you get to your first unit, when you get the first unit, you have some setbacks. I think in my case that one gentleman said, "Hey, I never seen two black aviators in my entire career." And I'm
I
like,
was
"Well,
going to ask that question. That
like,
was going to
hey,"
come up next. Yeah.
and I'm like, "Hey, you see, you got two right here in the unit. So I mean, hey, deal
That's
deal
a
with
good
it.
thing, right?
That sounds like a you problem, not a me
Right.
problem." Um,
I
you
love
know,
that.
and then going to your next assignment at Fort Bragg, there was some challenges there when we went to Bosnia. When you went from one unit that hadn't seen two black aviators, then you got six of them in one unit, including the battalion commander, the S3, a
Yeah.
company commander, like five or six lieutenants. That freaks some people out,
Right. Right.
with some things. But again, it just becomes one challenge after another. I've been on deployments. We went to deployment in Iraq.
Hmm.
We deployed without orders. I mean, we physically left without
Right.
orders. We knew we were going. I
Right.
knew we were going sooner than what the unit knew. And
Right.
knowing that, but again, I think that sometimes, particularly on the civilian side, you have choice, right? So you can elect not to take action. You can elect not to get involved or
Right.
stand on the sideline. In the
Right.
military, it doesn't that way. You're moving forward,
When they
whether you
say,
want to or not, But I think that teaches you a certain amount of resilience in a way because as they say, it takes on new meaning of going along for the ride, right?
mm-hmm, hmm,
But that sometimes that nudge or that push, it gets you to take action and it wasn't your choice, but it got you moving. And you do wake up and realize that, hey, all right, you got to pull your sleeves up. All right, I'm going to sleep on it. Tomorrow's a new day. You're going to go because these things got to do. There's a new set of tasks. It doesn't stop. And there are people dependent on you. And I think on the civilian side, you don't have anyone. A lot of times people don't have anyone to depend on but themselves
hmm,
or their
hmm.
immediate family. And sometimes that's maybe a stretch. So when you have others dependent upon you for their well-being and getting those things met, and you have leadership that holds you accountable to that, that pushes you forward, even when you may be in a state of mind that you don't want to do this. Not a matter of
Hmm.
choice of you wanting to do anything, but that goes back to a single mom. My mom probably didn't want to work 70, 80 hours a week.
Exactly.
That's
But
what she
they do
had to
what they had
do.
to do. Right. Hmm. Exactly. I love that. So give us an accomplishment. What is the proudest moment? What was your proudest accomplishment throughout your entire career in the military and also civilian life?
I mean, I think that, when I look back at the accomplishments, I think graduating from college, but again, it wasn't for me, it was for my mom, because I
Yeah.
think I was the first in my immediate family to graduate from college,
Yes.
the state is going to do it. And because I had went through so many struggles academically,
Hmm.
and, it's no secret. There were times when my mom wasn't sure if I was going to make it, right? And there were times I wasn't sure I was going to
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was one of
Mhm.
those times not to say, look, this is, look at me, I proved you wrong. It wasn't that. It was like, yeah, we did this, right? She didn't quit, I didn't quit. for that one, or even pinning my wings on at flight school, my on JRT
Yeah.
Sergeant Major. I have a picture with him pinning my wings over, but I'm looked over my shoulder because he kind of took that opportunity away from my mom. I thought she was going to choke him out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But for someone to
Definitely.
drive 13 hours, just to pin the wings on your chest, I mean,
Yeah.
that is, for them. And I tell kids all the time, you graduate, it's not about you and your achievements. It's about
Mhm.
everyone that was along that journey for you to get there,
Exactly.
that believed in you when you may not have believed in yourself.
Exactly.
From there. So I look back at those things, and it's the same thing now when I have a kid that graduates and
Mhm.
see them walk across the stage. It's a redemption for me because I lived it where people felt that, hey, people don't go to this school unless you're an athlete, right?
Right.
That here, and it's like, no, this kid wanted more than that. So that
Mhm.
way, when they throw when they find their family in the crowd and they
Yeah.
hold their diploma up and point to their family,
Yeah.
that's a redemption for me.
Yeah.
That, like, yeah, this is what I've been saying. That's what I tell kids all the time, to get back at people is not to give them the middle finger or to talk back to them. It's just it's by achieving.
Yeah. That's
That's
it.
what you
The
do.
best revenge is massive success.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
pays for itself. So seeing kids graduate, go from there, you'll see a lot on our website, and a lot
Hmm.
of pictures that we post. There's a
Yeah.
family photo, and that's for a reason, because I want that family 10, 20 years from now, when they have their grandkids, to look and the pictures all faded and everything.
Yeah.
They saw that family together on one of their best days, when
Yeah.
everyone is
Mhm.
dressed up or celebrating that achievement. They were all gathered for that day. And that tells a whole different story that spans generations. And those things, those are things that I imagine when you're taking that picture of them, or you're trying to get the family together
Yeah.
and say, hey, this is an iconic moment. You don't think this is a big deal. And this is why I tell kids that, hey, I don't care on graduation day. If your mother asks you to take 200 pictures, you better take
You do
201,
it.
and you
That's
better
right.
smile in all of them. you
I
know.
love that. That's so good. Yes, I agreed on
Mhm.
all counts.
Yeah.
So with that said, it's you have a lot that you've done and a lot that you're still doing. So looking at work-life balance and what that looks like, how do you balance your demanding career with your personal life and community involvement?
I'm probably not a good example for people to
At
follow. And I
least
say
you're
that
honest.
I am being straight up honest, because
Right.
people don't really see it, but a lot of those things overlap. And
Mm-hmm.
I was really intentional, uh, how I just became the nonprofit space. The intent was to,
Yeah.
to do real estate
Yeah.
for the for profit, and then help sustain the nonprofit. But the
Yes.
pandemic
Mm-hmm.
derailed that, so I only focused on the nonprofit, which
Right.
created some challenges for funding.
Mm-hmm.
But it also made it all encompassing. There's people who look for jobs and then there's careers, and they have their passion. I was able to find something that is all three of those are wrapped into what I do.
Yeah.
So with that being said, for some people it can be very aggravating, because it seems like the only thing I talk about is kids, but I'm very passionate about that. So
Mm.
I don't look at it as a job.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, for me, it blends in. A lot of those things are being involved with kids and going there. That gets me involved with the communities, because I had to talk to principals, superintendents,
Oh yeah.
counselors,
Mhm, mhm.
coaches, about kids, and understanding the background. That forces me to learn about the communities and the different challenges they have, because every community is different with that kid is have. So a lot of those things are all interwoven with what I do. And that's just
Yeah,
not like here. We've gone to like 40 events in 20 different cities across the country.
yeah.
So when you have that amount of information that you're processing, your brain doesn't really get turned off per se, because there's so
Mhm.
many different challenges from community to community, let alone the city to city across the nation. From there, understanding the different schools, we've helped about 530 kids from 23 states to earn about $43 million in offers. So what does that mean? I've had kids go to all the service academies,
Mhm.
all of the senior military colleges, of which there's six, over 200 to go to HBCUs, and then the rest were the schools of their choices. All of those institutions are different in terms of their makeup, their mission, their mindset, their requirements. You
Mhm.
have to understand, and not to be expert in all of it, but you have to understand all of those things, because each kid's experience on that campus is going to be different.
Mhm.
The culture is different on each campus, and understanding that and processing that, and then being able to articulate that and regurgitate it to certain kids that may be specifically interested in this particular school, or being able to learn about it's important because there's some schools that may have there may be a black flag that may not
Mhm.
be the fit for this kid. It's going to be the family's decision, but at least you can say, hey, have you considered this? Or put this in your kit bag. You may want to think about it. Or hey, when you go on campus, you may want to check this out and ask these questions to see if you're comfortable with this. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So for me, all of that is all encompassing. I think that, being in the military, you have physical fitness as part of the lifestyle requirement that takes on more importance as you get older with age, because you have to steadily move, from there. But you're constantly adapting. When I was in the military, it was like, running, lifting, push-ups and all that stuff. But as you get older, it's more the elliptical, it's doing cross training, it's doing
Mhm.
yoga,
Yeah.
but it's doing wellness to take on top of that, whether it's float therapy, or, doing meditational yoga, or, you're still being active, but you have to adapt to your environment, what your needs are for those things, especially now with mental wellness, and having
Mhm.
that 1 hour break or an hour and a half just to do yoga where there's silence and you're just focusing on yourself improvement. That's medicinal, but that's in the flow of a day, and that's part of your routine. That's what you do.
Yeah, I love that. And that was great advice because I was going to ask what advice would you give, but you already gave it. You kind of segue right into the next question of what you some of the things that you do to kind of keep you balanced. But it sounds like you have some good systems in place to do that. Like you know when to stop, take an hour, do the meditation. All of that's important. Keeps you well
Yeah.
balanced.
The biggest thing I tell people and everything, and I know some people don't like it, I keep everything on the calendar. If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist
That's true. That's
mentally.
real. That's real. Yeah.
And it doesn't keep you
Mhm.
focused. So I make sure, as think of it, think about your daily life as like an empty glass. You got to identify your big rocks. What are the things that's not movable? Things that pay the bills. What are those tasks that you have to do?
Right.
Then you have you put your sand, the things that that's your appointments for your business, and scheduling them in. Then there's the things that you don't want to do, your water, going out. That's here for me, my big rocks are physical fitness
Mm.
routine.
Yeah.
Those are the first things that go on the calendar. Then
Yeah.
I have my weekly routine, talking to my staff about calendar points that we got to sit down and just for once
Mhm.
a week go through everything. We go out 6 to 8 weeks in advance and do that every week, and what the tasks we need to do and follow up with that. But then, as we have opportunities with the kids, then I know what my big rocks are, then I can share that with people so I don't double book appointments, and like, hey, so I'm making sure they honor their time. But you also give them a guide. You don't give them free range to take over your calendar. You give them a guide what space that's mutually beneficial for both of you. So
Exactly.
both of you there, and you respect and honor their time. And then whatever else you get in, you get in where you fit in. And then that gives you a map. And then if something does come up, you can determine, hey, I can move this or I can't move that, or hey, I can be there, but I may be a little bit late. Is that okay? Or hey, can I adjust this time? So it's really, that backward planning that I learned very early on is, like being able to share that car with my mom to make sure she's at work and make sure I'm at work and I can go to
Mhm.
school.
Mhm. That makes sense. I love that. So lots of things coming from the way you grew up, the way you think too, in your mindset that kind of kept you moving forward. The resilience that you developed over the years, and you being able to leverage that, and then also having the balance in your life now. So that's pretty well. That's a life well lived, I should say. Love that. So, for future goals and visions, what's going on? What's your future goal and aspiration? What's next for Sean?
I think for us is for me is that my goal is our mission is to help about 500, and we want to build a capacity to help about 500 students per year.
Hmm.
That's about $40 million in offers. We'd like to see at least 50% go to an HBCU or HSI, um, or what they call now PMIs, predominantly minority institutions.
Hmm.
I would still anticipate about 20 to 35% going to a federal service academy or senior military college. There's some kids that's about that life,
Hmm.
and then the rest to go to school of choices. But I'm more interested in two things: them being successful, at least at a 70% success rate. The kids that actually help, they go to college, graduate, and become commissioned officers,
Hmm.
because a 5 year cohort that translates into about over 2,000 students. over $160 million toward undergraduate degrees, which reduces the average student debt quite a bit. But that lifetime cohort, they do what they're supposed to do. Their lifetime earning potential is somewhere between 735 million to $1 billion.
Mhm. I
Each
love
veteran has a VA certificate that's worth $1 million. And for those in the audience that don't know, a VA certificate is where you can purchase a home with no money down.
Mhm.
So if you use that correctly, that's worth about $1 million. That's $2 trillion in total lifetime, I mean, in lifetime earned income
Mhm.
for that family, and generational wealth creation.
And are
Um,
you staying connected with, like, once the students are graduated, you stay connected with some of them, kind of following their life through to the next steps. You stay connected that way as well.
some of them, but really our model is really designed to get them. Our model is designed to help improve the retention, graduation, commission, and employment rates.
Got
So our model, realistically, you work with a kid in high school, you navigate the process of application and getting an RTC scholarship.
you.
Then what we try to do is provide funding for them to go to summer school before and after their freshman year.
Yeah.
Um, and get them on campus, get their academic confidence up, identify any weaknesses that they have, teach them
Mhm.
how to build a relationship with the faculty, introduce them to some alumni.
Mhm.
That so that when they start their first year, then they have a support network around them. After their freshman year, getting them to summer school to get them academically ahead, or in some cases, they may get deemed up. So if you're at risk of losing a scholarship, it's just cheaper to send a kid to summer school than lose a scholarship that may range in value from 30,000 to $300,000.
Wow.
And then for some kids that we send overseas. So at that point, statistically, we know that if we get them past their freshman year, if we get them in a summer bridging program, the chance of them graduating on time goes up to 82%. If we get them past this freshman year in that summer school going into their sophomore year, it goes up even further. So at that point, they're really, the training wheels are off at that point. They're on their own.
Mhm.
Some
Mhm.
kids we're in touch with through graduation and beyond, but that really depends upon our relationship and if they're
Right.
interested in that or not. Some people are fully self-sufficient. Some people struggle a little bit, need some help, and then they're on their way. They figure it out, they're on their way.
Mhm.
Some kids on a struggle bus from start to finish.
Right.
You know, and
It
then
sounds like too, Sean, that you could have it's almost like a pipeline of success, the success rate after they graduate and staying connected with them. So I'm curious to know, like, what that would look like in terms of the day in the life of a student who graduated through the process and went through your program, stay connected, what that would even look like. But that takes time, I know, but that sounds like that could be a great show. I love that.
I mean, it could be. We have some success stories, like
Yeah.
Bethany White. She's doing her dental residency at Bon Secours Hospital.
Mhm.
Um, Worked with her undergrad through the dental school through one of my classmates, and but she's on her own. She's doing her own thing.
Yeah.
We stay in contact through social media, so I see her progression, see her get married, waiting for
Yeah.
them to have their kids. But that doesn't mean that we have contact day to day or in touch from that standpoint.
Mhm.
We have another young lady at Howard University, Fatima Dia, that after freshman year, she went to Morocco for eight weeks. Then we send her to Dubai, UAE for 3 weeks. We're in contact with her off and on there. But
Wow.
our communications have gone up quite a bit. Coming back for her sophomore year, she's gone to events. There was an event at the Military Women's Memorial where Kerry Washington was honored. She went,
Mhm.
she went to that event. She came to another event with us at the Distinguished Service Awards that was held by the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce, where she got to meet the Vice President for Cox Communications,
Mhm.
executives from Blue Cross Blue Shield
Mhm.
or
Okay.
American Anthem now, excuse me. Members from, Chevy Chase Bank, trust, so, and we're in contact now. So, but we've already looked at, okay, then there's a master's in public policy and data analytics at Cornell University. So even though she's a sophomore right now,
Mhm.
we're already started talking about her going to potentially Egypt over the winter break. What are you doing Nate summer? What are things that will help you be competitive to apply for a master's program at Cornell? Because she didn't know that the RTC scholarship can pay up to 5 years. So if that's part of the degree completion program, that you brief it every semester and say, hey, communicate with the chain of command. This is what I want to do. She got the grade, she got the experience, she applies and apply. They're going to hack off on it. and knowing that she wants to be a lawyer, then, hey, okay, you graduate commissioner from Howard, you get an educational delay, then you go to knock out your degree in Cornell, you come on active duty, do your couple of years, then you can apply for the FLEP program and
Mhm.
go to law school and have that fully funded. But you've done the building blocks from the very beginning, you just expanded. And that's what communication looks at, because the further she get along, the more contacts that I meet. And like, we met someone that was a part of a veterans group that has ties to Harvard and Yale Law, that we put her in contact with, so she can now start preparation here from those experiences. There's other organizations we connected her with that can provide mentorship, advocacy, and also champion her that goes beyond what we can do. So
Yeah.
that depends on the level of interaction between the student and us as an organization. We'll go as far as you really want to share with us, and do what we can. And we know that there's limitations of what we can do, but who can we hand that baton off to? The baton is a child, that's a young adult. Who do
Mhm.
we hand them off that can take them around that lap, around the next part of the track? Some elect to do it, some not so much.
Mhm.
So there's multiple ways to be, quote, successful. And again, we define success as you get the scholarship, you come out of school a little to know that you graduate in commission. For us, that's success.
That's a
Anything else
huge success.
beyond that
Yes,
is
that's a
bonus.
huge success. Yes.
Yeah, is bonus.
Yeah.
And
That's so good. Thank you for that answer. That was so good and very informative too. So, with that said, could you share your information with the audience, like your website and then email, how people can get in contact with you if they want to be able to donate or learn more about the program and further the conversation with you?
well, you have a couple of things. If you look back, I move my fat head out the way. You have two QR codes above my head.
Mhm.
The one to the left is through the combined federal campaign, and there's the one to our designated website through Network for Good. You can scan that code, uh, freeze the camera, take a picture of it. But our website is resolvesolutions.org, all one. From there, that gives you a website to tell some of the other stories from there. You can also find us on LinkedIn. You can find me on my personal LinkedIn, Searn Lanier. But then we also have Resolve Solutions on LinkedIn as well, X, and then Instagram as well. So we tell stories from there. Most of the stories are repetitive. Sometimes they're scaled to that type of social media, but you can find all of the links there on that site, or just follow me on there, and we'll get you transferred over. But so.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I'm sure that you're going to have folks reaching out to you to further the conversation to find out more about the program, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to say it's been a pleasure having you on the show, Sean, and thank you for taking time to share your knowledge, your wisdom, your passion, and your expertise with us. You truly are an impact leader. So thank you again for all the work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Edna, for having us on, and thank you for this opportunity, and to your audience. Great job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. So, as we wrap up, if you've enjoyed our time together, remember to share, like, and comment and subscribe to the podcast. If you want to connect with me, you can reach me on voemettoday@gmail.com. You can learn more about our services and resources at voicesof encouragement.com. We are empowering minds and transforming lives. And as we close out the show, and I love to say this, until we meet again, Ephesians 4:1, walk worthy of the call for which you were called.